from San Diego. Before I tell you my story, please like and subscribe. I was born to wealthy parents who really wanted one thing in the world. No, not me. When the nurse handed me to them, they were weeping with disappointment. I told you, I didn't want a girl. I wanted a strong, healthy boy, not a weak little burden on me. But I was far from weak. My lungs were strong, and I'd scream if Mom put me in my cot. And when I slept on my parents' bed, I'd kick Dad really hard. Eventually, he just left to sleep elsewhere, and I had so much more space. Soon after, I had learned to crawl. I sneaked into the library once when Dad had some guests over. I climbed up his bookshelf, sending a crystal figure crashing to the floor. When he took me off, I pulled his hair as hard as I could. He screamed like a baby, and it took Mom and 2 servants to get me off his head. Dad was just his bad-tempered self with me and Mom, until one day when I was 3, Mom found out that she was pregnant. And when Dad found out it was going to be a boy, he danced with joy. He looked like a silly monkey. When Zach was born, I thought he was the most perfect baby. But as he grew older, he didn't always behave like regular kids. He wouldn't respond to his name and hardly ever made eye contact. Mom wanted to take him to a doctor, but Dad just brushed her off. You and your stupid imagination. My son is completely fine. When Zach turned 3, Dad threw him a grand birthday party. But Zach seemed super scared of all those people. He hid under the table and Dad pulled him out. Come out, son. I've got something fantastic for you. Dad led him outside and everyone followed. And just then, there was a burst of fireworks, and Zach totally lost it. Make it stop! Stop it! Make it stop! I ran to hug him as he kept screaming, while Dad looked shocked. My parents took him to the doctor the next day, and Zach was diagnosed with autism. What? All I wanted was a normal son, for God's sake. Why can't I have one? Just one! This is all your fault, woman. And after that day, Dad was never the same with Zach. He would mostly ignore him or yell at him when he threw a tantrum, which made me so mad. Dad, he can't understand what you're saying. How is that my fault? He's been screaming for ice cream for 10 minutes. Take him away. He's driving me mental. Dad was crazy, but luckily, I could always calm Zach down. When I was in the 3rd grade, we'd gone to the mall with our parents when suddenly Zach ran up to someone's pram, snatched the baby's pacifier, and put it in his mouth. And the baby's mom went bonkers. You disgusting child! What are you doing? I'm really sorry. My brother is autistic. He doesn't always understand things. So what? Your brother is a little I'd slap him. Are you a moron? I just told you he has a condition, you dumb, ugly woman. But she leapt forward to snatch the pacifier from Zach, and I bit her arm really hard. She yelled in pain and ran away. Just then, I turned to see Dad behind me, and I knew I was in trouble. But instead, he hugged me? Aren't you a tough little thing? You always were. Why didn't I think of this before? From now on, you'll be my son. His what? And before I knew it, we were already shopping for boys' clothes and shoes. And the next day, he took me to the barber and got my hair snipped off. It was crazy, but for the first time in my life, Dad was praising me and paying attention to me. And, well, I liked it. Mom was shocked when she saw my hair and started to cry. Mom, don't be sad. It's my new look, and it's cool. Dad says I'm tough like a boy, and I can do anything boys do. It seems fun. Mom still looked sad, but she didn't say anything more. After that, Dad would take me out for a run every morning. He taught me football and karate during summer break. At first, it was really hard, but slowly, I got stronger and better. When I went back to school, I totally shocked the boys by beating their butts at sports. I got selected for the football team, and I became friends with a boy, David. Since Zach had joined my school too, I soon introduced the two, and David was always super sweet with him. And as we grew older, I sometimes felt I liked David more than a friend, but I was sure he'd never see me that way. I was just his buddy. Years passed, and life was better. Since I'd become really good at football, and Dad was so happy with me, he'd be less mean to Zach and Mom too. And Zach was my biggest fan. He'd be there to watch every match and cheer me on. Once in the 8th grade, I just sat down on the bleachers during halftime when Zach came running to me and jumped in my lap. You're the best player. The best. the best. He started kissing my cheek when suddenly I noticed this new cheerleader, Rebecca, looking at us with disgust. Ew, can you two boys please go make out somewhere else? What? Are you crazy? I'm not a boy, and he's my little brother. Well, he's not that little. Why is he acting like a baby? He's autistic. Oh, he's one of those. I'm so sorry, your brother's a weirdo. What? I was about to yell at her when suddenly David called me back to the field. Just then, I saw Rebecca smile at him, and he winked at her. After we won, I spotted him talking to Rebecca, and I could tell from a mile away that she was flirting with him. I felt really jealous. A few minutes later, he came running to me with a stupid grin on his face. That new cheerleader, Rebecca, she's really pretty, right? And so cool. I think she's a witch. She called David a weirdo. I'm sure she was just kidding. She doesn't know about his condition. Man, I can't stop thinking about her long hair and those beautiful eyes. And what do you call that thing that girls put on their eyes? Wait, what am I thinking? You wouldn't know the first thing about makeup, dude. He playfully punched my arm, and I felt like punching his face. Why was he being such a blind dummy? And I wasn't a dude. I'd show him. My chance came just a few days later when we had the annual spring dance. Now, David would see I was as pretty as any witch. I didn't have anything to wear except the dress Mom had forced me to buy last Christmas, and I stole her makeup and heels. I also put on some of her hair extensions, and I thought I looked pretty great. I couldn't walk out of the house like this in front of Dad, so I sneaked out of my window. As I nervously walked into the hall, I could feel all eyes on me. Just then, Rebecca came to me and started laughing. Did someone tell you it's a costume party and you decided to dress like a clown? Who wears an orange gown and your makeup is hideous? And whose hair are you wearing? Suddenly, she pulled off my hair extensions and started waving them around for everyone to see. As people around us laughed, I was about to attack her when my eyes landed on David. He was laughing too. I just turned around and left the dance in angry tears. Later, as I was crying in my room, I felt someone's arms around me. It was Zach. Why are you crying? Because people can be so mean sometimes. But you're the best, the best, the best. I hugged him tight. Zach was one person who couldn't care less if I looked like a boy or a girl. He just loved me for me. The next day in the corridor, I saw David with Rebecca and her friends. She gave me a nasty grin as she walked by me. But David pretended like he hadn't even seen me. Seriously? Before practice that day, I barged into the boys' locker room and pushed David against the wall. What's the matter with you, jerk? You're ignoring me when I should be ignoring you for the rest of my life. What did I do? You just stood by and laughed while Rebecca bullied me. Well, why the heck were you dressed like that, Anne? You kind of made a fool out of yourself. And Rebecca's my girlfriend now. What did you expect me to do? She's your girlfriend now? We've been best of friends since we were kids. I expected you to stand up for me, but you're just a stupid coward. Am not. Are too. A big, stupid coward. Stop saying that. Or what, you'll fight me? Well, I'll beat your butt, and then I'll get you suspended for hitting a girl. Because in case you forgot, I am a girl. I pushed him away and stormed off. After that, we didn't talk at all. He was always around Rebecca and the popular kids. And I was just glad summer break was starting soon, and I wouldn't have to see their faces for a while. Dad had gone on a business trip for a few months, and I decided to grow my hair out, and Mom took me shopping for some nice clothes. I was a girl, and I wanted to look like one, and I could still enjoy football or do anything I wanted. On the first day of 9th grade, I had lots of heads turning as I walked into school. As a bunch of boys and girls gathered around me, I suddenly saw David from a distance drinking water, and he spat it out when he spotted me. He couldn't stop staring at me till Rebecca came around and elbowed him hard in the ribs. I was having a good time in school, but just a few days later, I walked into the playground to find Rebecca snatching a piece of paper from Zach and laughing. What's this dumb drawing? It looks like a 2-year-old made it. No, my cat can probably draw better than this. You're stupid, aren't you? And with that, she tore it in half. I leapt forward and attacked Rebecca. She was no match for my strength and screamed like a banshee for help. Just then, I felt myself being pulled away by David.
Hey, pick on someone who can fight back at least.
I slapped his face hard. Why don't you tell that to your stupid girlfriend who was picking on my brother? Just then, David saw Zach crouching on the ground, holding the pieces of his drawing.
I made it for you, David. It's your favorite football player. It was your birthday gift. I made it for you.
It was David's birthday, and Zach had remembered? David stared at the drawing in shock, and I took Zach's hand and left. I went straight to the principal and complained about Rebecca, and she said she'd look into the matter immediately. That day after school, I took Zach to the amusement park to cheer him up. It was his favorite place in the world. He loved the big Ferris wheel and wanted to ride it 20 times. When we finally got off, we suddenly saw David standing in front of us.
I thought I might find you guys here. Just let me speak, okay? I've been a complete jerk, Anne. I got so caught up in being with Rebecca and the cool kids. I didn't even notice how awful they really are. I broke up with Rebecca, and I also complained about her. She's being suspended. Look, you don't have to forgive me, but I just want to say I'm really sorry for being so stupid and mean. You two are the coolest. And Zach, I fixed this. It's perfect.
With that, he showed Zach the drawing that he'd taped back together. Zach gave him a huge smile and ran to hug him. I slowly grinned at him and punched his shoulder as we started walking. That dummy and I would be okay. But when we got home, I had a surprise waiting for me. Dad was back a month earlier, and the minute he saw me, he looked horrified.
What happened to you? I go away for a few months and you turn into a lame girl? It's all your mother's doing, isn't it? She's brainwashed you.
No, Dad. It's you who's been trying to brainwash me. You made me think that there's something wrong with being a girl. Well, I like being one, and it doesn't mean I'm not tough or brave or strong. And you have a son who's amazing, but you act like he doesn't even exist.
He's weak, and you're weak. I have the worst kids on the planet.
Just then, a football hit Dad in the head. It was Mom.
That is enough. I've heard your nonsense for the past 15 years, and I have had it. My perfect kids and I just had the best few months without you, and I'm making it permanent. You want a better family? Go get one.
Wow, go Mom! Mom finally got the courage to stand up to him, and we left to stay with a nod. Soon, she got a divorce from Dad and half his money, and now we're living our best life.
Hello, everyone. I'm Gemma. I'm 14. If you're my age or younger, you'll probably think that what I'm about to tell you is unbelievable. For example, when your mom wakes you up in the morning, can you tell her, I played Roblox until 4 a.m.? I'm really tired. I'm not going to school today. That's exactly what I told my mom yesterday, and she said, sleep tight, darling, and gave me a kiss on the cheek. I'll give you another example. If you told your father when you were 12 years old, I want to get a tattoo, do you know any good tattoo artists? Would he tell you, there's a girl at my office who has really cool tattoos. I'll ask her for her artist's number. That's exactly what my dad told me. Next week, when I showed him the dragon tattoo I got on my arm, he said, it looks amazing. You should get one on your other arm, too. As I said at the beginning, you might not believe any of this, because as everyone knows, parents like to stick their noses into everything their kids are doing. They make a lot of rules, some of which make sense, and others that are useless, and expect the kids to follow them, no questions asked. The kids, of course, often have no choice but to follow them, because otherwise they get punished. This might sound really weird to you, but my parents have never set any rules for me. They never tell me what I can or cannot do. They don't question the things I do, either. That's how it's always been at our house. When I was a kid, I didn't realize that this wasn't normal. I thought that's how it is for everyone. But eventually, after seeing how other kids and their parents interact with each other, I realized that this wild life with no rules was something unique to my family. My mom and dad have always treated me as if I were an adult. For example, when it was time for me to start school, they sat me down and said, Gemma, do you want to go to school? You can homeschool with private tutors if you want. It's up to you to decide what you want to do. I was very young then and didn't really know what school was. I just knew that almost all the other kids were going to school, and I thought it would be fun to play with them. I said I want to go to school just because I wanted to play. After that, my dad said, "Deal, but if you change your mind at some point, you can stop going. You don't even have to tell us that you don't want to go anymore. We'll figure it out when we see that you stopped." At first, I was only going to school so I could play with other kids, but eventually I started to like what I was learning, and I decided to keep on going. By the way, for those of you who are curious, my grades are not bad at all. But my parents have never asked me, "Do you have homework?" or "What did you get on your so-and-so test?" When I tell my mom I got a good grade, she's happy for me, but that's as far as it goes, and she never brings it up herself. Yes, I'm in school, but my parents don't put any pressure on me to get good grades. It really helps me to do better in school. So why are my parents acting like this? Because they both had problems with the rules they had to follow when they were kids. When my mom was a girl, she had a notebook she carried with her all the time. When her parents made up a rule for her, she wrote it down. They made up so many rules that she couldn't keep track of them unless she wrote them down. My dad grew up in an orphanage. He also had a ton of rules he had to follow the whole time. By the time they both turned 18, they couldn't take it anymore and ended up leaving their homes and going traveling. They met in a mountain village in Peru and got married a week later. That day, they promised each other, "In the future, when we have a child, we will never have any rules for her. She'll grow up to be the freest child in the world." Obviously, that child is me. I don't know if I'm the freest kid in the world, but I'm definitely the freest one among my friends. Some of my friends actually don't like the fact that there are no rules in our house. They say, "This is too much. Sure, nobody likes to have too many rules, but we're still just kids. Our parents need to have at least some rules for us." I want you to help me figure out who's right. Let me give you a few more examples, and you can tell me if you think I have too much freedom. Let me know what you think in the comments after you finish watching. Just like with everything else, my parents don't set any rules when it comes to going online or playing games. During last summer vacation, I got addicted to Candy Crush. I played so much that by the time I finally got bored and quit, I was on level 5430. Those who've played it know that this game looks easy, but some levels are extremely hard. There were times when I didn't leave my room and played Candy Crush for 3 days straight. I would only get up when I really had to go to the bathroom. I was totally going too far. My parents were bringing me food, saying, "We missed you, love," and sitting with me for a while. I couldn't stop because I was obsessed with the game. Despite all this, my parents never said a word about it to me the whole time, because they are completely against forbidding me from doing whatever I want. Do you think there are any restrictions when it comes to food? Of course not. There is no set dinner time in our house. Whoever wants to eat will eat whatever and whenever they want. My dad loves to cook. Every time I open the fridge, there is some food that he's prepared, but I don't have to eat it if I don't want to. For example, the other day at breakfast, I told my mom, "I feel like having ice cream." She replied, "Check the fridge to see if we have any. If not, we can get it delivered." I don't know how that sounds to you, but some days I only have ice cream for breakfast. Last winter, I had chips for dinner every night for a month and a half. Of course, that wasn't healthy at all. But in the end, I was the one who decided to stop instead of my parents telling me to. I don't think there's anything wrong with living in a house with no food rules either. I think it's wonderful to eat only feel like eating. As I said earlier, my parents don't even forbid me from getting tattoos. I can get as many tattoos or piercings as I want, but most tattoo artists don't believe me. Every time they ask me to bring them a signed letter from my parents. For my 5th tattoo, I wanted to get a small butterfly on my neck. I went to a tattoo artist who I heard was really good. She had a daughter around my age. Even though I showed her my letter, she said it's not right for a kid your age to get tattoos, and refused to give me one. She even asked for my mom's number and called her up right away. She argued with my mom for allowing me to get a tattoo. In the end, I couldn't wait any longer and sneaked out from the shop. As I was running out the door, the woman was screaming behind me. To tell you the truth, I can understand why other parents are mad at mine. They think that a kid raised with as much freedom as I had would be a bad example for other kids. They are right, because when my friends see how I live, They start questioning the rules their families impose on them and stop following them. This, of course, doesn't make the parents happy. When I was 9, I went to a friend's slumber party for the first time. We were playing a really fun board game and laughing like crazy. At some point, my friend's mom came in. "Girls, it's past 11. You'd better go to bed," she said. It was the first time I was seeing a mom tell her kid what to do. This was really weird for me because I wasn't used to it. But the weirdest part was that everyone suddenly stopped playing. When I saw that, I said, "But we were having so much fun. Let's keep playing. It's too early to go to bed yet." The girls stared at me in disbelief. They were shocked that I had the nerve to say something like that. My friend's mom frowned and said, "Gemma, in our house, when the grown-ups say something, the kids do what they are told." Naively, I asked her, "And what happens if they don't?" She said, "Of course, they get punished." Because there are no rules in our house, there are no punishments either. When my mom said they get punished, I didn't even know what she was talking about. Even though it's been years since this happened, I still can't wrap my head around the concept of punishment. One time, I made plans to go to the movies with a friend. When I called her, she said, "I can't make it. I'm grounded. I can't leave my room this weekend." I asked her why. She had asked her dad, "My allowance is too low. Could you raise it a little bit?" For some reason, her dad got super angry and grounded her for the whole weekend. I think it makes no sense that parents see it as their right to punish their kids. Grown-ups think they are the boss of the house, and unfortunately, kids often accept that without any objections. Now you know my story. Would you like to grow up in a house where you are free to do anything, or do you think having no rules is not a good thing? I'm really curious about what you think. Please